Hello and welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're doing the first of a three-parter and looking through the best value defenders for FPL this season. Now obviously there are lots of good options available, some premiums, but obviously in terms of value, you kind of are getting what you pay for. There's the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Vardiol, Cucurella, Ait-Nouri, lots of premium options that are at the end of the day the most expensive defenders in the game for a reason. So we are going to be looking a little bit cheaper in terms of defenders to find out who actually is worth the value that they're given and who could be a really nice budget or worthy pick. But before we get started, my mini league is now live, so make sure you go and join that. The code is on screen, or you can use the auto join link in the description. We got a lot of players in last year, and obviously trying to beat that this year and see how many players we can get. But let's jump straight into things and look at our top value defenders. So the first player we're going to be looking at is Aaron Wan-Bissaka of West Ham. He is one of the highest owned defenders in the game at the minute. Only 4.5 million, so I think he has the highest owned 4.5 million defender as well. And for fairly decent reason as well. I don't think he is as good as people are making it out to be. I'm seeing a lot of people saying he's essential for the first few game weeks. I don't necessarily think that, but I do think at 4.5 million it does provide some good value. So since going back to last year, obviously there was a switch in manager for West Ham, so Graham Potter joined in game week 21, which means we get 17 matches out of Wan-Bissaka with Graham Potter as manager in the league at least. And it was a bit more attacking. He got 5 assists in those 17 games, no goals under Potter, which is unfortunate, but he was a little bit more attacking than we've seen him at the likes of Manchester United and stuff like that. 16 key passes in 17 matches. He was involved in a lot of the attacking play, averaging 3.5 per match points per match. Now West Ham weren't the best defensively last season, so in terms of getting a player from like a good defence, I wouldn't necessarily say West Ham is that, but Wan-Bissaka is nice for attacking, and in terms of defensive contributions it looks pretty decent as well, averaging 7.92, and you can see him on the list here as well. He is sitting at least in the top 20, which isn't too bad for him. He did achieve 10 plus defensive contributions. Obviously that includes CBIT, if you're wondering what that stands for, is clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles, I believe. He achieved 10 plus in 17% of his matches last year, which means he would be getting defensive contribution points every 5.8 games or so. So this is why I don't really think he is essential, because he's not the most attacking player, so you're not going to be relying on attacking returns from him all the time. So you would hope that you could look back on some defensive contribution points, but the fact he's only going to be getting that one every 5-6 games based on last season's stats, I don't think he's absolutely fantastic, but he is only 4.5 million, so you are kind of getting what you pay for in that sense. And he does have some pretty decent fixtures, as you can see, to start us off as well. Not fantastic fixtures. Chelsea, Forest and Spurs, not amazing. Sunderland in game week 1 is looking pretty decent, however, but you can rotate him pretty well with some other players, the likes of Crystal Palace, if you wanted to go for maybe a Chris Richards at 4.5 million as well. He rotates quite nicely with him. Again, you would probably look to swap him out for game week 2, 4 and 7. That's why we've got 2, 4 and 7 available. Now we've got Fulham as well. Someone like Anderson, 4.5 million as well, is really nice for defensive contributions, has pretty decent fixtures against Man United, Leeds at home and Bournemouth away as well. So you do have the option to chop and change with Wan-Bissaka. Again, I don't think he is absolutely amazing. Personally, there is 4.5 million defenders that I do prefer over him, but I think he does provide some value. Attacking threat wise, he looks pretty decent. Defensive contributions, he looks pretty decent, but I wouldn't be relying on both of those to get you points every single week. Next up, we're going to take a look at a player who is in my own draft, and I can honestly see me getting rid of him before game week 1. So I think he probably will be in my game week 1 team, and it is going to be Neco Williams of Nottingham Forest. Now, as you can see, the fixtures for Nottingham Forest are looking really good off the bat, and they were one of the better defences last season as well. So, a run of really nice fixtures for Forest. I think a defensive player is going to be really useful from game week 1. You're looking at Brentford at home, who have lost lost a lot of their attackers. Obviously, Mbeumo's now away, and Wissa looks set to leave as well. So I think for game week 1, you could be, very confident in a clean sheet from Nottingham Forest at home as well. Crystal Palace in game week 2 away from home isn't terrible either, and then at home to West Ham, another game where you could be hoping for a clean sheet there. Tough fixture against Arsenal in game week 4, but then game week 5 and 6 you're getting 2 promoted teams as well, one against Burnley and one against Sunderland, one of those being at home as well. So I think you could easily be looking at 3, potentially 4 clean sheets from Nottingham Forest in the first 6 matches, and Nico Williams is definitely my favoured pick of them, because as you can see, we've got the defensive contributions per 90. Nico Williams is number 10 for defenders. Now I can pull up the top 20 again as we just had. The only player above him is Murillo. He is one of the best for defensive contributions, but he is 0.5 more expensive than Nico Williams is. Now what you get from Nico Williams is of course also the shots and the key passes, just the offensive threat that he does bring, a lot more than Murillo does from centre back, and I don't think the difference between them in terms of defensive contributions is enough. Obviously Murillo could go and get 20 defensive contributions. As long as Williams gets 10, they're going to get the same amount of points, and averaging 9.28 per match or per 90 is a really good score, and I think Williams could easily pick that up, very consistently as well. If he's going to get forward, he had 37 shots last season. Comparing that to some of the other Nottingham Forest defenders, he is well ahead. Key passes, he's better than the likes of Aina as well on the other fullback position. So he's just the one that I prefer a lot more to, again, the centre backs and Murillo and stuff, and Aina on the opposite fullback. So a really nice pick, a really nice value pick that I haven't seen in a lot of teams so far, and for me is easily the best Nottingham Forest defensive player that you can pick up. For our third player, we're going to go with Chris Richards. Now, he is someone who I've not seen in basically any drafts whatsoever, but another player is only 4.5 million, and a nice rotation with some players that we have already spoke about. Again, Wan-Bissaka was one of those. He does rotate pretty nicely. In terms of last season, you might think he maybe isn't too nailed based on playing a lot less games, but in terms of, the final into the season, Chris Richards was really a big part of that Crystal Palace squad. He played in all of the final 10 matches except for one in which he was suspended for that, and he started in 19 of the final 24 games of the season from game week 14. So it was just the start of the season that he never really played as much as the other Palace defenders, which when looking at the total season stats, you're going to be looking at him and thinking he's not 100% nailed. But based on that second half of the season, it looks like he does have a very solid spot in that right centre back position for that Crystal Palace back 5. Now in terms of defensive contributions, another player who is just below the 10 threshold. Again, 10 contributions every single game is what you are looking for. He looks as though he could really hit it very often. As you can see, he achieved 10 plus contributions in 38% of his matches last year, which means he hit DEFCON points every 2.6 matches. So if you're getting that every 2 or 3 games, you're talking 4 points every 2 games, which is essentially more than what an assist gets you. So I think the DEFCON points is definitely not something that you want to be underestimating. If you can pick up a defender who picks up an assist every 2 or 3 matches, they're going to be a big FPL asset. I've spoke about this in previous videos as well, so I think these DEFCON points are definitely something you want to be considering for your team. Now in terms of Palace's fixtures, they aren't looking too fantastic, so he is going to be someone that you probably are going to be benching quite a lot. Again, if you're picking a 4.5 million defender, you are going to be probably looking to rotate them with someone, and again, Wan-Bissaka is a really nice option for someone like Chris Richards to rotate with. I would imagine Palace don't really keep up too many clean sheets in those first 7 or 8 games, but they do have a nice fixture in game week 4 against Sunderland, in which case if he picks up DEFCON points and a clean sheet, you're looking at a pretty decent haul from him. So for me, he's not someone that I'll be looking to start every single game. Again, you do want to have DEFCON points, but you do want to have the potential of clean sheets as well. Obviously attacking returns would be even better than that, but I don't think Palace are going to keep a lot of clean sheets in the first 3, if any clean sheets in the first 3, so he's probably someone that you just want to stick on the bench and wait, and then probably have him for game week 4 and game week 5, and then potentially game week 7 as well. But again, if you are really low on the budget and you can't afford someone to, chop and change with Richards on the bench with, I wouldn't hate playing him in game week 2 against Nottingham Forest. Again, he probably picks up DEFCON points. Probably doesn't keep a clean sheet, but I wouldn't totally rule it out either. Again, game week 1 and game week 3 and even game week 6 against Liverpool, you're probably looking at DEFCON points as well. But a lot of the 4.5 million defenders are really just enablers to, get yourself some of the big attackers and big midfielders as well. So again, Richards isn't my favourite defender in the world, but I do think he is going to be nailed for Palace. Palace aren't an awful defence either, and he is looking really nice for defensive contributions. So for me, he's probably the best backup 4.5 million defender you can go for. He's not going to play every single week, but a really decent option for your first bench player. Now, what I did want to do was compare him to other Crystal Palace players. Now, another one that is looking really, really nice is Lacroix, who is obviously the other centre-back for Crystal Palace. Now, he is 5 million, so he's going to be a little bit more expensive, but he's another player who does provide really, really nice value, and in terms of stats, does blow Richards out of the water. So Lacroix could easily be the one in this video, but I think Richards does provide a little bit more value based on his price. But, comparing them side by side, Lacroix does average over 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles every single match, so you could be looking at more defensive contribution points from Lacroix. And in terms of when Richards really started playing, game week 19 onwards, Lacroix had more minutes, he had a higher XG, they had the same XA. Lacroix had more shots, he had more key passes, and he achieved more points as well. So Lacroix is definitely the best option if you're looking for the best possible Palace defender. Obviously Munoz is going to be clear right at the top of that, but Lacroix only 5 million is looking like a really nice option, who again is going to achieve consistent defensive recovery points, defensive contribution points. Richards just does provide that cheaper option, but I think if you were to put them both on the table, I would definitely be picking Lacroix first. I think with Lacroix though, you are paying 5 million, so you would want a lot more than just defensive contribution points. Again, their fixtures aren't too great, so you're probably just going to be looking at DEFCON points from him, which is why I just prefer Richards at the start of the season. At least I think when Palace's fixtures get a little bit better, then Lacroix is going to be a much better pick. But I think off the bat, Richards and Lacroix both looking like some really good value picks, but I do think Richards at the start at least does provide a little bit more value. And then finishing things off with a player who I think is very, very underrated this season, and it's going to be Antonee Robinson. He was one of the most popular players at the start of last year. I think for the first 15 or so game weeks, he was in most teams in FPL, and Fulham have been very underrated this season. At the end of the day, they haven't really sold anyone off. They haven't brought in a lot of new players either. And they haven't lost a lot of players like a lot of the other mid-table Prem teams have. Again, the likes of Brentford have lost a ton of their players. Nottingham Forest have lost quite a few as well. They're doing quite well in terms of retaining players, but Fulham have done really well in terms of keeping their same squad from last season. Now, Robinson was another player who done really well for defensive contributions last year. He averaged 8.49, which really isn't too bad. Again, quite, a little bit lower than like your Williams and stuff, but he is definitely capable of hitting that in every couple of games. As you can see, he achieved it in 31.4% of his matches last year, which means he would be getting DEFCON points every 3.2 games. Now, as you know, he was someone who picked up a lot of assists last year, so what you're getting is attacking threat from him and also DEFCON points every couple of games. So he's just like last year as an asset, but adding in those DEFCON points, which he is very capable of getting. Now, you can see with the fixtures as well, really decent fixtures for Fulham. Brighton away isn't awful. Man United at home, they could easily get a decent result there. I think Chelsea away is going to be quite difficult. Leeds at home is a really good fixture. I think Brentford at home is a really good fixture as well. So just in the first 5 fixtures, I think Chelsea's really the only difficult one in there. And again, if you are rotating defenders, you can easily stick him on the bench for game week 3. But in terms of Fulham's defence last season, they were the 6th best defence for expected goals conceded. Now, they did only keep 5 clean sheets, which was the worst of any team in the Premier League outside of the 3 relegated teams. So Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton were the only 3 teams that had less clean sheets than Fulham last year, but Fulham were still the 6th best defence for expected goals conceded. So they did overperform their expected goals conceded, so they were a lot more solid than the stats made out to be, which I think is something that we could look at this year to expect that Fulham could be a much better defence and a much better team to look at for this year. Now again, in terms of Robinson for attacking threat, he was the 10th best defender for expected goal involvements last year, and he was joint second for goal involvement among defenders last season. I think Ait-Nouri picked up 11 goal involvements, and then it was Robinson, Munoz and Trent who all three of them picked up 10 goal involvements. So again, only 5 million for someone who's going to get attacking threat, defensive contributions, and has decent enough fixtures and a decent enough defence to pick up some clean sheets as well. So I think he's definitely someone that I would be considering if you don't have him already. And again, like we said already, someone who does provide some really nice value. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Of course, all of the stats from today's video were taken from Fantasy Football Hub. Again, if you want to see more players, more stats, make sure to use the link in my description to sign up. You can get 50% off right now with the pre-season. And again, make sure to sign up for my mini league as well. The link is in the description as well, or you can just use the code on screen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.